5 years old, I would be 20, 31 years. So, and this temple has been around a lot longer than that. We just finished having the 46th installation anniversary of Sri Sri Gauranitai just here in Ottawa. And so a lot of devotees have been here. Well, I've been here too for many years. Kamal Lochan Prabhu and Guru Prasad Prabhu was definitely one of the first persons that was there when my family was coming here to the temple at first in 1990. And as a vocation, I'm a teacher. So we have a little school with myself and my wife in Russell, and we do some Montessori education, a little bit of music, and yeah, I'm very thankful and pleased to have the opportunity to be able to share something, to be here in your company, in your association today. And perhaps before I start speaking, we're going to chant a short prayer, Jayaradam Alava. Feel free to join along. Prabhupada Madhava ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Advanced Antarashaya Chakshurmitana Tasmashi Maha Kampativacho Kambandeshi Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishna Bhutaya Shrimati Nandina Swami Tinamine Nahata Priyasana Prabhupada Letter Sankirtan Prabhupada Letter Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishna Bhutaya Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamine Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastityari Satarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jai. Fire! So how do you feel when you hear something like that?
Run.
Anxious is a good one. Devi Prabhu said run. If somebody screams like that, fire! Do you feel calm? No. Somewhat disturbed? Just meditate on that for a second. How that made you feel. So, this entire material existence, including the planets, all the universes, all the galaxies, all the cities, even the little towns like Russell, even our bodies. So those are some places. Our bodies, they are all on fire. And thank you, Prabhu. And actually, in our worldly consciousness, our illusory task is to deny all of these things, right? Material consciousness. It's okay, it's good, it's not on fire. What are you talking about? If there's a fire, maybe it's somewhere else. It's not here. Not for me. You know, I'm okay. And however, as much as our societies, right, or our elders, our parents are trying to reassure us that there's nothing to worry about, we find clues everywhere about this all-consuming fire. And if we can read the signs, we can't combat what we deny. That's something to know. Any thoughts somewhere? Am I way off on a limb here? Am I being melodramatic, maybe? The verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 7, text 22. Arjuna Uvacha, Krishna Mahobaho, Bhaktanam Abhayankara, Sam Eko Dakya Mamanam, Apavargosi Samshutehe. Is the word for word. Arjuna Uvacha. Arjuna said,
Arjuna said,
Krishna,
Krishna,
O Lord Krishna,
O Lord Krishna,
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 O Lord Krishna,
O Lord Krishna,
Mahabaho,
Mahabaho,
he who is the Almighty,
he who is the Almighty,
Bhaktanam,
Bhaktanam,
of the devotees,
of the devotees,
Abhayankara,
Abhayankara,
eradicating the fears of,
eradicating the fears of
from you,
you,
Eka,
Eka,
alone,
alone,
Dakyamananam,
Dakyamananam,
those who are suffering from,
those who are suffering from
Apavargha,
Apavarga,
the path of liberation,
path of liberation,
Asi,
Asi,
are,
are,
Samshrute,
Samshrute,
in the midst of material miseries.
in the midst of material miseries.
Translation. Arjuna said, O my Lord Sri Krishna, you are the almighty personality of Godhead. There is no limit to your different energies. Therefore, only you are competent to instill fearlessness in the hearts of your devotees. Everyone in the flames of material miseries can find the path of liberation in you only. Now, I'm just going to read one excerpt from that purport. Here Prabhupada says, material existence is something like a blazing fire in a forest, which can be extinguished by the mercy of the Lord Sri Krishna. The spiritual master is the mercy representative of the Lord. Therefore, a person burning in the flames of material existence may receive the reins of mercy of the Lord through the transparent medium of the self-realized spiritual master. The spiritual master, by his words, can penetrate into the heart of the suffering person and inject knowledge, transcendental, which alone can extinguish the fire of material existence. And actually, the topic of today's talk was supposed to be the glories of Harinam Sankirtan. And to that effect, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he refers to 7 characteristics of Sri Krishna Sankirtan, or 7-tongued flame. Yeah, that's what he called it. And so the first characteristic is Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleansing the mirror of the heart. Second is Bhava Mahadavarni Nirvapanam, extinguishing the blazing forest fire of material existence. 3, Shreya Kairaiva Chandrika Vitaranam. One receives the benediction of pure devotional service, compared to moonshine spreading the white lily of good fortune. 4, Vidya Vadu Jivanam, the life and soul of all knowledge. The devotee receives the benediction of knowledge of his eternal identity. 5, Anandham Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam, expanding the blissful ocean of transcendental life. 6, Purnamritasvadanam, tasting full nectar at every step. And 7, Sarvatma Snapanam, the self is wholly cleansed of all desires other than for selfless devotional service. So this is actually prayer from the Lord Shikshastakam. Right? Those are the prayers that Lord Chaitanya himself, like the Bible has the 10 commandments, he received the Shikshastakam. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he breaks this down into these are the 7 glories of the Harinam Sankirtan movement that we do. So one was it really cleanses the mirror of the heart. Our heart, it's covered, and it's just a reflection. Actually, we think that we see ourselves, but actually, what's really in there is the soul, right? And the spirit soul, the super soul, Krishna. And by engaging in this Harinam Sankirtan, actually we uncover and realize our true identity. And those identities are we're eternal servants of the Lord. And our purpose is to actually act on that relationship with the Lord as servants. And secondly, he's saying extinguishing the blazing forest fire of material existence. So can anybody relate to that? Is anybody experiencing a blazing fire, or they feel sometimes that, oh, it's just too much for me to handle. I'm so stressed out. Does anybody ever feel that way?
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Yeah, so Lord Chaitanya understands this, and he knows that this is our condition, and as conditioned souls, we are constantly in anxiety, we're stressed out. It's actually a common line. When I went out on book distribution with devotees, they would use that. Have you ever heard of stress or anxiety? Like, of course, I've heard about it. So, well, we have something that can help you with stress and anxiety. And it's a popular line because actually people, oh yeah, really? Because I really have a problem with that. It's there. Third one was one receives the benediction of pure devotional service, compared to moonshine spreading the white lily of good fortune. So it's a beautiful, it's an analogy about how the moonshine, it cultivates this beautiful white lily, and one receives this rare benediction of this lily, which is this devotional service. Fourth, Vidyavada Jivanam, the life and soul of all knowledge. The devotee receives the benediction of knowledge of his eternal identity. So by practicing and engaging in this Harinam Sankirtan, which is, well, what is Harinam Sankirtan, by the way? We didn't talk about this. What is Harinam Sankirtan? Or a part of it? Does anybody guess what we recall? Yeah, right, because it's chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Yes, very good. So by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama. The devotee receives benediction of knowledge of his eternal identity. Which is, what is this? We talked about, what is the eternal identity? Yes. So 5, expanding the blissful ocean of transcendental life. Yes, this is the characteristics of Harinam Sankirtan, right? Because that's what Prabhupada wanted, right? He came to the West, and that was his mission, to expand, to print books, to distribute more books, to tell more people about it. 6, tasting full nectar at every step. So when one engages in Harinam Sankirtan and really imbibes this process, they get to taste full nectar at every step. And 7, the self is wholly cleansed of all desires other than for selfless devotional service. So one needs nothing else but just devotional service 24/7. And then one is in bliss. Right? So to that effect, just this last week, it's pretty busy for us right now, at least for me and my family, because we're starting to get ready for the new year, the school year as teachers. And there's just so much to prepare, especially in light of COVID. There's restrictions, there's mandates that we have to follow. And we're just opening a new location and starting on Tuesday. We're trying to get the licensing for that. And not to mention, we have to deal with family responsibilities that are there, community responsibilities, figuring out what we're going to eat tonight, how we're going to sleep tonight, all of those things, all considerations. And we, together with a few boys here at the temple, we made a pact that this Wednesday we would get together and just do some book distribution. We'd go out and just, have some sangha together at the temple for a bit, and then go out and do some books at the university and do that. And it was supposed to be 6 o'clock that we were supposed to meet to do it in the evening. And I'm looking at my watch, I'm in Russell, and I'm like, it's 4 o'clock. I have so much to do still, I'm never gonna get it done. And I was thinking, well, maybe, should I cancel? Should I, I can't cancel, I can't back out of the commitment. So I decided, you know what, forget it, right? Let's just turn it all off, right? It's done for the day. The world is not gonna fall apart, because Krsna Dulal didn't do something. So decided to just go. And I took my son Trey with me, And so he was just getting back from camp. Trey's 9 years old. And I said, come on, let's pack our bags. We're going to go to the temple. We're going to have a brahmacharya program. That's what we said. And so, okay, so we grabbed his bags and we're driving in a car. And we're just heading out. And I just felt this like tremendous like weight coming off my shoulders, as though like, wow, this is so blissful. Like we're just going and we were just talking about how it's going to be when we're going to be there and what we're going to do. And we came to the temple and the other devotees were at the temple. And we had some kirtan and then we just went out. And some of us had dhotis on, we had instruments. Ilya Prabhu so kindly, even though he wasn't able to come and join us, he came and he says, I want to help, the Sankirtan movement, so I'm going to bring, he brought his tulsi, he brought, some things for us. Mother Elena made some cookies for us or snaps that we could distribute, sunflower seeds, so we could give to others as prasadam. And so we grabbed a few things. What did we have, Colin? We had, what did we bring? We had a mat to sit on, books, snacks. What do you need, right? For a boys' party, that's all you need, books, snacks, right? And we had some instruments. We had mridanga, we had some kartals, tambourine. We had a big Maha Mantra, which was nicely designed and made by Guy Prabhu. And then we headed out. And we just went out to the university here really close by. And we went in harinam, so chanting. And we got there. And there wasn't too many people because, it's like closing in on the end of the day. It's like 6:30 that were there. But we went out and one of our mandates was that we wanted to get some signatures for a club. We're trying to start a Bhakti Yoga club here at Ottawa. And we need to get 25 signatures. There are any students here online that would like to, doing a plug-in right now, give us their signatures. Come and see me after. So far, I think we have maybe 13 or 14. We need 25. So we're getting there. If you go out one or two more times, I think we'll get there. So we went out to do that, and for some of us, it was kind of like a first experience, especially my son. He's coming out with these older boys out there, and he was in the middle playing the mridanga. When we got there, right on Laurier, and between the university Tabaret Hall, and then we had Perez there, and we kind of sat down, put the mat down, and Colin Prabhu and Trey sat down, and they were chanting together. Trey was playing mridanga, they were taking turns leading, and Varun Prabhu was there. Vardhan Prabhu as well, and myself, and we were just we're there with the books, smiling at people, and we got some signatures. I think we got like 10 signatures, and unfortunately, we weren't very good at getting the books out, so we didn't get any books. We started to come back to the temple though, because it was getting late. We had the next part of our program, so we walked back. We had kirtan, and on the way, before we came back, Arun Prabhu was telling me, he says, kind of feels like those students are looking at us that, we're kind of like aliens, and like these devotees, they're not sure. And he says, I go very often every weekend to Montreal, and Montreal, they have a temple, and in Montreal, they're so well known that anytime devotees come out, everybody knows that these are the devotees. It's like part of it, it's a staple part of the university. It's like a Hare Krishna faculty that's there. And these devotees go out on Harinam Sankirtan every day. So they have a brahmacharya ashram. They have actually young men that are living there. And that's part of their service, that to go every day. And so Varun Prabhu is saying, oh, but they're going to get to know us well because we're going to come again next week, right? And we're going to do it again. And it's going to be wonderful. And so we came back, and as we were approaching the temple, there's one gentleman that was standing in front of the temple. Mother Leela Mohini was closing up because she was finishing putting the deities to sleep. And there was a gentleman that was inquiring about the programs and what we have happening. And we just met him as he was about to leave. And sure enough, he took a Science of Self-Realization, a book. So we got one book and gave a really nice donation. And so that was our experience. That was something that we went through. And, there was definitely some austerity to be able to get there. There was definitely some getting out of your comfort zone to make it happen. But after you do it, it's like, oh, I'm really glad I did that. I even had that experience, growing up, often even coming to the temple sometimes. Should I come to the temple? I have so many things to do. But I push myself and I say, oh, I'm going to go to the temple. And then after I go to the temple, I remember me and my dad would drive back. And we're like, Dad, it's so nice that we went to the temple. And he was saying, yes, see, this is the power, right, of the holy name, right, an association of devotees. So when Srila Prabhupada first set foot on the Western world, his situation was extremely challenging. Most of us know this story. He later described that he did not know whether to turn left or right. He had tried various means to create a foundation for Krishna consciousness in the Western world. He started holding Sanskrit classes, Bhagavad Gita classes, and prasadam distribution. But none of these seemed to appeal to the firm and stubborn minds of the Westerners. Nothing seemed to work. Finally, Srila Prabhupada made a big decision that was not only unexpected, but also carries value even now, 50 years later, more than 50 years. He, along with his Shri devotees, marched towards Tompkins Square Park and introduced the Sankirtan movement to the public for the first time in the Western world. And as Vaisheshika Prabhu says in his book here, Our Family Business, the rest is history. And later, in an interview with one reporter, Srila Prabhupada affirmed that actual starting point of ISKCON's growth was Harinam Sankirtan. Quote, I started my movement simply by chanting Hare Krishna. I chanted in New York in a place called Tompkins Square Park, and soon people began to come to me. In this way, the Krishna consciousness movement gradually developed. Many accepted and many did not accept. Those who are fortunate have accepted. And I've been reading this book, actually, which was written by Vaisheshika Prabhu. It's called Our Family Business. And actually, Niranjan Maharaj, there's commentary by a few of our leaders in our movement here, and testaments to how wonderful this book was and whatnot. And Maharaj writes the following here. He says, in Our Family Business, the title of this book, Vaisheshika Prabhu has brilliantly captured the spirit that drove Srila Prabhupada's disciples beyond all limits to please his divine grace by publishing and distributing his books by the millions all over the world. Reader, beware. This book has the potential to not only rekindle that same spirit in the hearts of those who live only to elicit Srila Prabhupada's smile, but to ignite that same spirit in the hearts of those who are not even aware that that's what this life is all about. Thank you, Vaisheshika Prabhu, for keeping this spirit alive. This is Niranjan Maharaj. Section. It's not here. At some point, there was a marathon that was happening, and during Prabhupada's time, it was like a fire, but in a devotional sense, because devotees were in anxiety, and this book distribution started to become so big. Big copies of books were being distributed, which seemed like it was impossible. Like there was this one instance where the devotees were trying to print 17 volumes of our literature, and Prabhupada wanted these volumes to be printed and done in 2 months. And then one of the devotees said, this is impossible. And then Prabhupada quoted that famous saying, impossible is a word in the fool's dictionary. Anything is possible when you have Krishna. And then, devotees also thought that, hey, it was going to be difficult or impossible to get books to people, get them to read it, and get outside of our comfort zone and give them books, and that nobody would pay to get a big book like this or a hardcover book, because up until that time, they were just accustomed to distributing small flyers, right? The Reservoir of Pleasure, the small books that people give 25 cents for. And then later on, one devotee decided, let me do this to please Srila Prabhupada sometime, our spiritual master. So then the first Krishna book went out, and other devotees started to see, wow, it is possible, it can be done. And then other temples started to do the same thing. And then, up until now, there's such a thing as the Bhagavatam sets that are going on, which is you can see the whole top shelf. That's one set of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is kind of like all of our cultural stories, right? And in our philosophy, our Krishna philosophy and instructions. And Mandalaram Prabhu, he, on our behalf in Ottawa, he said, let's make a commitment and see if we can distribute 15 sets of Bhagavatam here in Ottawa. And everybody was like, yeah, let's do it. And as I was talking with him, I said, yeah, we're really gonna put Ottawa on a map to transcendental competition. So maybe we might be able to do more than Montreal, I was saying to Mandalaram Prabhu. And he's like, yeah. And then I was saying, maybe then we can do even more than Toronto. And then Mandalaram Prabhu said, whoa, let's look down at that. Toronto does quite a bit of book distribution. To get to that level, it would take quite a bit of effort to do. And I was actually talking to Radha Mohan Prabhu from Toronto the other day. He came and visited us, and he's him and Madhushyama Mohini, they spearhead the book distribution program in Toronto. And I was telling this to him, the story about me speaking to Mandalaram Prabhu, and he was saying, yeah, I know, yeah, it's tough getting those books out. And he said, this year, Toronto, they pledged, I think it was something like 190 or 198 sets of Bhagavatam to distribute. And I was saying, wow. And then Radha Mohan Prabhu was saying, but that's nothing. He said, ISKCON Silicon Valley this year, they pledged to do 2,000 Srimad Bhagavatam sets. So just to understand, put that into perspective, it's wow. And because they're on fire, and that's their own, conviction. Vaisheshika Prabhu is there. That's his prime goal. From the very beginning, early days of joining Prabhupada's movement, to distribute those books. That this makes Prabhupada so happy. There's a subsection in this book that's entitled "Guaranteed Success." What magic there is in setting out into the vast, unpredictable world to carry out the order of one's guru. A disciple on such a mission becomes fearless because he or she knows that success is already guaranteed simply by setting out. Since life in the material world is fraught with challenges, the devotees who catch hold of their guru's order and face all challenges as opportunities to prove their devotion meet with uncanny success. How could it be otherwise? Even before Srila Prabhupada journeyed to America, the methodical way in which he carried out the Guru's order brought unanticipated success time and time again. In New Delhi, he sold 18 sets of his new published first canto to the Acquisitions Librarian at Library of Congress Office, the National Library of the United States. The library's representative in Delhi also agreed to buy future volumes and then dispatched some of the 3 volume sets to America, one of which ended up in the New York Public Library a year before Srila Prabhupada's own arrival in America. Now here's another glory of the Sankirtan movement here. This next subsection is entitled Fortune Favors the Bold. Here's what happened to one of the devotees who caught the fever. At nearly the same time, the San Francisco devotees were having their breakthrough in 1971, Mahatma Das, temple president of ISKCON Vancouver, was constantly meditating on how his Sankirtan team might distribute the volumes of Krishna book. So this is the bigger book, stored at his temple. Even for a natural innovator like Mahatma, the idea of selling Krishna book to the Canadian public seemed a stretch. Until that time in November of 1971, no one in his community or anywhere else, as far as he knew, had ever done it. Mahatma and the Vancouver devotees, like ISKCON devotees elsewhere, had grown accustomed to selling BTGs for a quarter. They had also sold a smattering of easy journey to other planets for 50 cents, which at the time seemed like a lot to ask from the public. Getting Krishna out of storage and into the hands of the Canadians would be a challenge for sure. And at some point, I can't pinpoint it exactly here, but one of the letters from Prabhupada is inserted here. And it said, Prabhupada said something along the lines of, for the devotees who are going out on Harinam Sankirtan, if they go out and don't worry about where they're going to sleep or what they're going to eat or what they're going to do to take care of their bodies, and just to serve the Sankirtan mission, that's going to please me very, very much. And devotees, when they heard this letter from Prabhupada, they said, wow, let's do it. And then there's an excerpt here of these devotees traveling in Canada, going to some northern remote area that's there, and they had their books with them. And it was cold, it was winter, they had no idea where they're going to be. And they only saw one person on the street who was in a small town. And he was like a local town drunk. So he was kind of walking around like this. And one of the devotees said, I'm going to go out. He's like, you get him a book. And so he went out, and the devotees were looking at this one devotee speaking to this town drunk. And they suddenly see him take a book, Krishna book with him, and give $8 donation for the Krishna book. And they thought, wow, this stuff actually works. It's amazing. And somehow they were able to find a hostel, and then they stayed in that hostel overnight, and everything was all right. And then they continued. And there's so many stories. Like if you read this book, like Niranjan Maharaj was saying, it's quite exciting. So this actually book, I think, is also now, Prabhupada Prabhu wrote it, he donated it to the BBT. So now it's also carried by the BBT. Lord Chaitanya says, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Kevalam, Kalonasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva Gatiranyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other means for self-realization than the chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name of Lord Hari. In this age of Kali, the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Therefore, simply by chanting the holy name, one associates with the Lord directly. Anyone who does so is certainly delivered. This chanting has been introduced in the West by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. His Divine Grace says, since Krishna and His holy name are identical, the holy name is eternally pure and beyond material contamination. It is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is a transcendental vibration. And I thought this is a nice comparison, since we're talking about stress, anxiety, and whatnot. In the Vedic literature, Krishna is compared to the sun, and Maya, or illusion, is compared to darkness. Just as the sun, appearing above the horizon, dissipates the darkness of night, so Lord Chaitanya's movement of Sankirtan, or congregational chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna, can dissipate the materialistic consciousness of the age of Kali. So maybe I'll stop for a few minutes and see if there's any comments or questions or realizations based on what you've heard of, or if it spurred some thought. You remember about something when we were reading some of this stuff. So is everybody convinced that, oh, come on, let's hear from me.
No, I was just thinking about one of the themes of the presentation today was about how immaterial is full of stress and anxiety, and people usually not usually, but normal people feel not so happy when they have this emotion. But on the other hand, devotees also feel stress and anxiety, but when they engage in the nutrition service, it actually gives bliss and ecstasy. Because devotees are feeling anxiety and stress. How can I serve Krishna better? How can I search spiritual master that how can I make them happy instead of us happy. And when they have this urge inside, it actually gives happiness and bliss, as I call it. When it's material, stress and anxiety, it's either
Thank you. That's a wonderful point. Yeah, it's transcending, actually.
engaging with the
Yes, yes. And I really did felt that way. Like it was like when we went out on Harinam that day, I was stressful. It was also stressful going on Harinam and approaching people. So that's also one of those things, you know. I don't know if anybody has tried it before, but kind of going up to somebody on the street and like cold calling. But one thing about cold calling is when you do it over the phone, it's like you never actually have to see them face to face. But when you go and approach somebody and they just look at you this way, or they just ignore that you're passing by, you start to think like, how could this person do this to me? Me, you know who I am? You know, this person just walked right past me. So it is a very, it's very dear to our spiritual masters, very dear to Prabhupada when he sees that we're making these kinds of efforts and actually putting ourselves out of the comfort zone. Because, you know, why put ourselves out of the comfort zone? Yeah.
I just want to continue on that came to my mind
Yeah.
right now. I think, I'm not sure if that letter that you quoted 2 minutes ago about the Srila Prabhupada, when he was encouraging, Srila Prabhupada was encouraging devotees to this literature. I don't know if that's letter or not, same as what I had in mind, but Srila Prabhupada, in one letter, he said, those devotees who are distributing my transcendental to the Bhagavad, they are getting my
Special
special
mercy.
extra mercy.
Yes, I think so.
Sounds like the same letter.
I'm gonna see if I can find it
But
actually.
then Guru Maharaj Swami, when he was talking about this letter, he was saying, Srila Prabhupada will drive us, make us crazy with these statements and these instructions because we wanted to please him. And when we hear this, Srila Prabhupada was saying, they have been such devotees to distribute my books, they are getting special extra mercy. Guru Maharaj Swami was saying, I was thinking, how is it possible? Because I'm already getting so much mercy and I'm already getting so much ecstasy and bliss. How can I get even more than this? It's impossible. But then he said, but because Srila Prabhupada said it, all I knew is I wanted.
Prabhu, could you say that again one more time, but in the microphone?
Nobody heard.
Devotees want to hear the bliss that you're sharing with us here.
I don't know what I said. Just saying how Narayana Swami was sharing with devotees in classes. Srila Prabhupada was, he sent out the letter to devotees, how those devotees who distribute Srila Prabhupada's books, they are going to get special extra mercy. And Narayana Swami, he was in the classes sharing how he was thinking when he heard such statement. He was thinking, how is it possible to get even more mercy because I'm already getting so much mercy. How is it possible to get even more than this? Special extra mercy. But Guru Narayana Swami said, but regardless, all I knew is I wanted to get it because Srila Prabhupada said, we are going to, it will be pleasing to him and he will get special extra mercy. So all I knew is I want to get it, I want to do it. And that Srila Narayana Swami said, those statements were driving us crazy, all devotees in holidays. It was driving us crazy, it was giving us so much anxiety how we can fulfill those instructions, but it was completely.
I found some here, actually, some of the words here. So here's one excerpt. Prabhupada saying, I've been receiving so many reports about how my disciples at the San Francisco temple cannot be surpassed by anyone in distributing my books. And that's still the case, right? There's Silicon Valley's in San Francisco, in Los Angeles. So it cannot be surpassed by anyone. Sometimes they're selling as many as 70 Krishna books daily. So if this is true, then certainly when I return to the US, I must come and stay in your temple By distributing my books profusely, you are giving me great encouragement to translate, and you are all helping me to fulfill the order which Guru Maharaj gave me. So I'm so much grateful to you, and I'm sure Krishna will bless you 1,000,000 times over for doing this work. Another section, he says, so I am so much pleased upon all the boys and girls in Los Angeles and all over the world who are understanding and appreciating this unique quality of our transcendental literature. And voluntarily, they are going out to distribute despite all circumstances of difficulty. By this effort alone, they are assured to go back to home, back to Godhead. Those are just some sections there. So it says here, here's a little bit more reading. What is required to experience this bliss? Stepping outside of the comfort zone. And here's a quote. It's, don't live the same day over and over again and call that a life. Life is about evolving mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. So this is by an American journalist, writer. His name is Germany Kent. There's also this analogy of the caterpillar. Not such a beautiful insect, the caterpillar, and it goes through a lot of difficulties for it to become a beautiful butterfly, right? It's in a cocoon for a while, and it's trying to squeeze out, barely surviving, and then it becomes beautiful. Another example is Prabhupada. In 69, he came to the to the West, and at such an advanced age, right? 69, 70 years old. Now most people, okay, time to start taking my pension and relax and go out to graze, go out to pasture, right? Not much time left. Why put myself through anxiety? Take a ship ride all the way to the West, health challenges, not know where the next day, where I'm going to stay. So there's no failure actually on the spiritual platform. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, he teaches us that we are spirit souls trapped in a material body. Unlike the body, the soul is undying and eternal. Therefore, anything on the spiritual platform is an eternal success. In this, he says, there's this verse in Bhagavad Gita, in this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution. And a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. And success on the spiritual platform means to please Krishna by our thoughts, words, and activities. In contrast to material success, which can be measured with quantifiable results. Spiritual success may have nothing to do with measurable external results. Devotional service to Krishna is absolute. So we can even successfully serve Krishna, even in our mind, besides serving through our body and our words. There's another point. Mahatma Prabhu is quoting this. He says, a devotee cannot fail. He can't fail. Because devotional service is absolute. The effort is spiritual and perfect despite the outcome. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, would appreciate a devotee if he sold even one magazine for a few paisa. Prabhupada said there is no question of success or failure in devotional service because our position is like a soldier who has a duty to fight. We simply do our duty. Mahatma Prabhu says, therefore, the only failure is not to make the effort. Srila Prabhupada didn't know if Krishna consciousness would be accepted in the West, but because his spiritual master ordered him to preach, he felt he must try. He knew that anything is possible by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, but externally it was not obvious how it would happen or even if it would happen. When asked why he chose to go to New York instead of London, Prabhupada jokingly said, my godbrothers went to London and failed, so I thought I would go to New York and fail. Although he said it jokingly, he was well aware that he might fail. However, since his guru asked him to spread Krishna consciousness in the West, it would have obviously been a much bigger failure not to try. Prabhupada's real success was that he got on the boat to America. He wasn't thinking, what if I don't succeed? What will everyone in India think of me? He was only thinking of the order of his guru. Sometimes we are afraid to fail simply because our egos can't take it. We don't want to admit to ourselves that we are not as competent as we think we are. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur quotes, failure is the pillar of success. Actually, somebody was telling me this a while ago, like the big, like Fortune 500 companies, when they try to come and back a starting venture, like a venture capital project, right, to go, they look at the person's track record. And if that person has not failed before in the past, they don't want to support them. But if they see that this person had, 6 startups, right, or 5 startups, they're like, he's going to be onto something. This is the person we want to invest in. And I think they give some kind of an average. Usually the 7th startup makes it, right, when you do it. You may fail a few times before, but eventually this drive of people being determined to get back up and keep going, this is an attractive quality. And it is our endeavor. If our endeavor is to please Guru and serve Krishna, go for it. Take the risks, Mahatma Prabhu says. Make commitments. Take on responsibilities. Perform your duty, but surrender to Krishna. Trust the process. And we have so many stories of this in our scriptures. Look at Draupadi. As she eventually trusted the process. She let go. She said, Krishna, please, right? And he provided her with endless amounts of saris. She thought, no, I can handle this on my own. I have the power to be able to control what happens to me. And so although she was being ridiculed, right, in this game of chance, was there, she was being disrobed, nobody was there to protect her. And then finally, she surrendered. She let Krishna take charge and drive. So that's the moral. Let Krishna take the reins. And we're getting old. I'm getting old. Let's face it, you're getting old too. Right? Not getting any younger. So there's no better time like the present. We should really take up the process, not wait 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, 2 months, wait until this lines up, wait until COVID passes, this and that. You should just go for it. It's right now. There's no risk. And there's no chance of failure. Krishna says it right there. So right now we have, actually, some of you may have seen on WhatsApp, we have a shipment of books that just came in. 2 massive skids. Over $14,000 of books are here. And we should get them out. We should go out and distribute, come up with creative ideas. If any of you Prabhus have some ideas or thoughts, how can we do this, right? Can we go? I'm not sure, but I think this might be a good idea. Should I make the step? Come and see me. Let's do it. Let's give support to that. Let's get those books out. We could go, have a work party, go to the libraries. We could go on Harinam Sankirtan. We're having kirtans already in the park where people are hearing the chanting of Hare Krishna. And try to experience this bliss, because no doubt we're going to experience it. But if we give it to others, we're going to really experience bliss. And it's not that we're masochists and we want to put ourselves outside of the comfort zone. And some people may think, oh, you guys are really hardcore. We just want to live a simple life and do that. Actually, when you put yourself outside of your comfort zone enough, in that spirit, to really want to serve Guru's instructions, then that discomfort zone becomes a comfort zone, and it becomes a no-brainer, because you actually see how much suffering there is out there, and how much of a relief is given by us being able, by devotees, to give them something.
Что не работает? Кондиционер. Почему? Ну, потому что температура выровнялась. Там намного теплее.
So yeah, Krsna Dulal Prabhu agrees with me in Russian. That's what he's told us. He's like, yes, that's what we have to do. So, and I really think so. If each person in this room raised their hand and said, I am going to sponsor 5 cases of books tonight, right? We'd have maybe about 20 of us in here. all those two skids would be gone. We'll find some kind of way, how can we get those books cases out? And I'll see Mandala Prabhu on here. Maybe he would like to make a, I don't see him, no? So that's pretty much it, devotees. Maybe could at 6:30, so like Kamalocha Prabhu, thank you for sharing, that was really nice. Are there any devotees that would like to share something? Guru Prasad Prabhu, or anybody else? If you're on Zoom, you could raise your hand in the reactions tab at the bottom. And if you're in the room, you can raise your hand with your hand. Eyeball. Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Last monthly Sankirtan festival, when we went for book
Oh, hold on a second. We're going to give you a microphone.
in the last monthly Sankirtan festival, when we went for book distribution, I got few books and went away from the place where you people were. And a lot of people thought that I was some salesperson trying to sell their books, and everybody was like, no, they just saw me with the books and like they were just, it was demotivating. But I learned compassion that day, and I still had the smiling face and looking for people who could get the book. And I could realize how fortunate I was to stand on the other end and not on that their end, that saying I was not the person who was saying no to the Krishna. So I was so fortunate to realize that, oh wow, I'm in this phase of route. And yeah, I gave away. I was also choosing people whom I could, because I somehow knew, okay, if I approach them, they would literally say no. So I was also choosing. So I asked, kind of choosing people who could literally stand for 2 minutes and listen to what I had to say, what's in the book. And with that, while I was expressing, and I got a chance to read about those books, because without knowing, I can't tell. So I had to give a gist on those books, and I was able to learn by myself to tell others. And then after a lot of, I was about to take a U-turn. I was like, no, this is not happening. Nobody's staying, donating. Or so then a person was like, oh, you were saying about Krishna. He only came, a localite Canadian, and he started conversing. And he said, oh yeah, my father used to follow ISKCON, and somehow life got on and he couldn't. And he was an older guy, and he did not have any means of to write down where he should come. And but I told there's a place ISKCON was written inside the book, which I gave him, and he Googled it. He got into and he came on Friday. So I was so glad that to the one whom I gave that dress, he made it, and I felt great that day.
Thank you. Thank you. Is it the first time you went out on book distribution, or you've done it before?
I've done it a couple of times.
Would you do it again?
Yes, of
All
course.
right. How you going? Good. So thank you for sharing. Is anybody else? Come on, Chimple.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, the intention to sponsor books, is it was real or it was
Oh yeah, absolutely. Should we do it now? Is that what you're saying? Are you making a vow? Okay. 2 cases. Hurry-oh. How many boxes?
Maybe one.
1 box. All right. Hurry-oh. We should write this down. Would anybody else like to sponsor some books or boxes, or since we're on fire right now?
We can start with one Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, 1 Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, Prabhu is doing 1 Bhagavad Gita. Haribo! Fantastic. That's great. Oh, we have a hand up online. It's Mother and Anna Mike. Hare Krishna.
Mute.
Oh, you're muted, Mother and Anna Mike.
Oh, yeah. Just a second.
Yeah.
Yes, Mataji just saying that she would like to sponsor the box.
Jai, Mother Anandamai is sponsoring a box of books. Haribol! Thank you so much. Oh, that's great. So, does anybody have any other questions, realizations, things they wanted to share? Online, maybe? So some of us are planning to do it again. We're going to go out again on Wednesday for book distribution. It's a boys' thing. But the Harinam is for ladies too. So if they want to come and join us, we're going to meet at the temple at 6. And we're going to have a little kirtan before we go out. And we're going to go out for a couple of hours. So everybody is welcome to come and join us. We'll start from here. And we're going to do Harinam and go straight to the university. Okay. Jai Harinam Sankirtan Ki. Jai.